And I'm Emma, and we're going to show you guys how to do a hat assay today. So the hat assay stands for head, abdomen, tail, and it's a way to measure how the larvae's reflexes are. So larvae, you can imagine as a person, if you're feeling sick or gross, you don't like when people touch you in different ways. You respond differently than you would if you were healthy. So that's essentially what we're measuring here. If they have a really bad diet, they might respond differently when they're poked in the head or the abdomen or the tail. When you think about when you are touched by something, your sensory neurons are receiving that signal, that stimuli, and it goes to your brain, and then your brain sends a signal to your muscles. So by using this assay, we can see how different diets affect all those different aspects, your sensory neurons, your brain, and even your muscles. And there's a bunch of different responses that the larvae have whenever you do the hat assay, and it's different movements that you can actually measure and put into a graph. So the first movement you have is they could just continue crawling forward. Like if you poke it in the tail, it could just kind of keep going forward like that. The second movement you can have is crawling backwards. So if you poke it in the head perhaps, it can just keep going the other way. Then it can also just stop. It just gets really annoyed if you poke it in the head and it just sits there and it chooses not to move. It can also do a head wagging movement where it actually raises its head up from the plate and wags it around. That's when you can tell it's really annoyed. There's also, it could just keep turning left or right. You could just change its direction. So say you're walking forward and you poke it in the abdomen, it just decides to move a different direction. It can also do a roll, so the larvae literally just tumbles, it rolls over. That's pretty fun. And then there's also a C-bend, which it'll do a lot of times when you poke it in the abdomen. So you poke it and it just kind of bends itself in the C direction, and then usually it'll start moving in a different direction. And that's how you measure the hat assay.
So here's the tool that you guys are going to use when you do your hat assay. It's essentially just a little wooden dowel with a toothbrush bristle attached to it, which is what you will use to poke the larvae in the head, abdomen, or tail.
Alright, to measure the hat assay, you're going to want to take your larvae and put it on the apple juice plate. This apple juice will help it to move because it smells it and it moves around on the plate. You might want to wait a little bit and let it get adjusted and moving around on the plate, and then you can start your hat assay. You take the stick with the toothbrush bristle on the end and you gently poke it on the head, abdomen, and tail. You want to poke it gently enough so that you don't hurt it and you just barely dimple the surface of the skin. And that's it. To measure the reflexes during hat assay, you want to come up with a way to standardize the behaviors you see so that you don't have to scribble out a whole big thing describing the behaviors. So you want something short and simple like CC for crawling forward, or S for stops, or HW for head wagging, or T for turned. Things like that to keep it simple.